Heaven Official's Blessing. Chapter 100. Audio source: WuShoWorldAudiobook.com. Mad confrontation, laughter of ridicule without closure. If Lan Chong had said something to the likes of, "The one who killed me was you," it still wouldn't be as startlingly a bolt from the blue as this proclamation. Xie Lian was practically knocked out by her thunderbolt. Me? Upon the throne, even Jun Wu's hand that was supporting his temple seemed to have slipped. The heavenly officials were all shocked into silence, then immediately turned towards him, and Jun Wu's hand righted itself, continuing to appear somber with his hand on his head. The officials then looked to Xie Lian in unison. Was this it? The third banishment to come before the eyes of all? Xie Lian could only feel his entire mind numb and shaking, and forced himself to swallow back that habitually used "I can't get erect" that almost escaped through his teeth. That was only a casual excuse, not appropriate to be used in circumstances like these. Besides, there were already vulgar talks that passed around in private in the upper court in regards to various martial gods and their attitudes towards women. When Feng Xin saw women, he'd stay respectfully far away. Lang Qianchu blushed the moment he saw women. Mu Qing refused to see ugly women. When Pei Su saw women, he'd be expressionless, but who knows what he's actually thinking. Quan Yuzhen didn't even have women on his mind, and Pei Ming's mind was all women. If Xie Lian made his excuses now, no doubt his name would be added to the list. Xie Lian said earnestly, "My lady Lan Chong, please calm down. There's definitely no such possibility." Lan Cheng's eyes were bulged bigger than bells. "Yes, there is. It's you, the crown prince of Xianle. Even though the timing of when this woman died was after his ascension and could maybe match up, but whether if he'd met her before, wouldn't he be more clear than anyone?" In between all the whispering around, Xie Lian became solemn and said severely, "My lady, I may not be a saint, but I still know I've a faithful heart. If I don't love someone, I will never cross any lines with that person. If I do, then even if I must beg and collect junk, busk and perform on the streets to feed my family, I will still never allow that person to suffer any bit of grievances. You are in the great martial palace, do not speak falsehoods." Shi Qingshan piped up too. If it really was His Highness who committed such a deed, why would he bring this female ghost Jia up to the heavens to confront anyone? And why is it only now that this lady Lan Chong recognized him? Just thinking about it makes no sense. It was easy to see it didn't make sense. Yet, with such a show, no one cared if it made no sense. The crowd maintained a reserved attitude, and there was even an official who blindly guessed. Maybe it was like this, perhaps His Highness lost his memory so he doesn't remember the things he's done? Honestly, I think it's more believable that he's bold enough to think maybe after 800 years no one would recognize him. Xie Lian was speechless and cautioned the crowd. To prove something impossible by making up something even more inconceivable is a dangerous path to go down, my lords. On the side, Feng Xin looked like he wanted to say something, but as if he couldn't make up his mind, he paused, and in the end, remained silent. Jun Wu cleared his throat and said, "Xianle, how many golden belts did you have in your possession in the past?" Xie Lian covered his forehead with his hand. "Too many. At least 10. Mu Qing said flatly. "Over 40, each with different embroidery and patterns." It was only when the words left his mouth did he realize it was inappropriate and shut up. Because there were already people who instantly remembered that Mu Qing used to be Xie Lian's personal attendant, and took care of his daily living, which was how he had known such details. Many of the officials couldn't help but think, just golden belts alone and there were over 40. This Highness the Crown Prince really lived an extraordinarily luxurious life. Not just the others, even Xie Lian himself when thinking back felt rather embarrassed. Back then, he'd change into a different extravagant attire every day, and his belts changed each time, matching with whatever outfit he had on, unlike now, where in an entire year he'd only have the 3 sets of clothing to wear over and over again. Those 3 sets all looked exactly the same too, and with just one look people must think him so poor he'd only have 1 set of clothes to wear. Junwoo asked, "And where are they now, do you remember?" Xie Lian and Feng Xin both ed silently. Xie Lian rubbed his forehead. Ahem, not really. They're things from 800 years ago after all. I've long forgotten where they've gone. Not just because they were tossed out, but the main reason was because he and Feng Xin often pawned items off whenever things got tight. Too much were pawned away, and whether if there were any belts left he really couldn't remember. Feng Xin didn't have the heart to discuss this subject but still said, "To be able to obtain that golden belt, it must have been given by someone else or maybe picked up somewhere." Junwoo hadn't actually expected Xie Lian to remember either and said, "Xian Le, I remember that your cultivation method demanded a body of purity lest your spiritual power be greatly damaged." "Yes," Xie Lian said. Shi Qingshan piped up again. "Well, just by looking at His Highness I can tell he must have cultivated such a path, so I was right. If that's the case, never mind knocking anyone up, I bet he's never even held anyone's hands." Xie Lian was about to say, "That's right," but in his mind, suddenly, there was a pale white, slender hand, cool as jade, reflected upon a bright red wedding veil, its 3rd finger knotted with a thin red thread. That's right, got stuck in his throat, no longer able to roll out. Everyone in the hall was staring at him intently, and with just one look it was obvious that this stump meant. That's not true. However, never held hands was too low of a standard, and even if hands were held it wasn't a big deal. Shi Qingshan immediately added, "Even if he's held hands, he must have never kissed anyone before." Xie Lian wanted to say, "That's right," again, but this time, before his eyes suddenly floated streams after streams of crystal-like air bubbles, the translucent beads dispersing. Then, there was an exceptionally handsome face with eyes closed, a small widow's peak on top of that shapely forehead, beautiful to behold. This time, not only did not a single word get squeezed out, his entire face flushed a bright red. Instantly every heavenly official in the hall understood, and dry coughs sounded all around. Shi Qingshan was starting to regret saying anything, knocking his fan over his own head once, and secretly passed a message to Xie Lian through their private spirit communication array. "Sorry about that, Your Highness. I only wanted to convince everyone that you're really of the innocent sort, but I hadn't realized you weren't. So you've had such experiences, I really couldn't tell." I really couldn't tell, shattered Xie Lian's will. He choked out with difficulty. "Don't say anymore. That was an accident." Junwoo's hand folded into a fist and pressed it against his lips, clearing his throat loudly. "Very good. You haven't violated your mandate in these years, correct?" Xie Lian finally let out a breath of relief. "Yes. Then that'll be easy," Junwoo said. "I have a sword here named Yanzhen 1 and it possesses a particular ability. Should the blood of a virgin flow upon it, it shall not be stained but become brighter as it is washed. Take a drop of your blood and drip upon it, and we shall see the truth." Although everyone knew for years that Junwoo had the hobby of collecting rare and strange swords, but still all the heavenly officials thought in their minds, "Why does my lord have all those messed up swords? What's even the use in collecting those?" Xie Lian himself was feeling more and more confused by the situation and only wanted to end it as soon as possible. Ling Wen brought forth that sensual Yanzhen sword, and immediately slid the blade across his hand. Countless eyes watched intently, and Shi Qingshan clapped. "Good. Case closed." Drops of blood slid past the blade, leaving not a trace as expected. The proof was as solid as the mountains, and the crowd could only break up. "Ah, I see. Then who can it be?" Their voices lackluster, dripping with disappointment. Ling Wen turned to Lan Chong politely. "My lady, please tell us honestly just who this heavenly official is. The fetus spirit in your womb is unruly and your powers aren't strong, so only its blood-bound father can calm and discipline it." Unexpectedly, before he finished, Lan Chong pointed at Ling Wen and cried, "You! That man is you!" Ling Wen. Ling Wen probably only just came from his temple to attend this meeting, and was in the form of a man. To suddenly be pointed as the child's father by Lan Chong, he was in baffled shock. All the heavenly officials spat out. Pei Ming thus laughed. "Noble Jia, did you finish administrating your reports and went to find a nice girl to knock up?" Ha! This was probably what they called instant karma. Ling Wen shook his head and gratefully declined Shi Wudu's compassionate gesture of wanting to give his good nephew a red packet. His expression returned to normal and said, "I didn't finish, and I've no time." After such riotous back and forth, suspecting a number of officials, naturally no one would believe Lan Chong anymore. Feng Xin couldn't watch any longer and said grumpily, "I get it. This female ghost is completely mad from the start, and is only here to throw around blame, here to stir up trouble." Lan Chong cackled, sounding more and more like a crazy hag. If that should continue, who knows who she'd accuse next, and the heavenly officials all changed their track. Yes, who knows, maybe the golden belt was stolen. However, Lan Chong wouldn't let anything go. Putting her hands on her hips, she screamed, "What, trying to get away? Too late. No way. Is it you? Is it you? Or is it you?" At this point, it was obvious she was pointing fingers randomly. And even the Mingyi, who was standing in a corner silently, focusing on chewing whatever his cheeks were stuffed with, was forcibly recognized as the father once. It was chaos in the Great Hall, and everyone was fleeing. "Take her away, take her away. Don't let her spout any more nonsense. This Jia isn't my type, don't you slander me. So disgraceful." Jun Wu waved his hand and a junior official came in to take Lan Chong down. Even as she was dragged out of the Great Martial Hall, she continued to scream and laugh shrilly. The officials within the hall could finally calm their hearts and stand back in position, their heads throbbing. At first everyone had thought the matter didn't involve them and was only there for a good show. But now they weren't so sure whether if a bucket of shit was going to get thrown over their heads. Maybe even landing themselves a new play in the mortal realm of a female ghost lover with gaudy makeup and a ghost son who had murdered thousands. Feeling the danger, they all raised through their hands with abandon. "There's no way to investigate this matter. I think she's simply mad in the head. No need to investigate, it'd be a waste of time. Just lock her up. This can very well be the ghost realm causing trouble on purpose." Xie Lian didn't agree, however. Earlier on the way here, the Lady Lan Chong was quite conscious, so why did she become this way the moment she entered the Great Martial Hall? "I'm afraid it's not something that can be explained away with a simple, mad in the head." Single quote. Thus, the crowd broke down to two sides, debating and arguing, but in the end the conclusion was still that never changing. We'll see, we'll see." After the meeting was dismissed, he bid farewell to Shi Qingshan, who promised he'd descend in a few days to visit and play. And Xie Lian walked out of the Great Martial Hall, sighing mentally. They all say Lingwen Palace is inefficient, but it can't be helped. Every time we gather to discuss anything, there's so much noise and vacuity, and in the end the conclusions are mostly nothing concrete. So how can Lingwen Palace conduct anything? Just then, he sensed someone behind coming close, and he turned around to see it was Feng Xin. Slightly taken aback, he hadn't even greeted before Feng Xin hastily said under his breath, "Watch out for Muqing." Xie Lian lowered his voice too. "Muqing." When he entered the hall, that female ghost reacted oddly, like she was afraid of them. Feng Xin said, "I don't care for other people's personal affairs, but in any case, you watch yourself." He hurried away after having his say. Xie Lian stood where he was and waited until Feng Xin was far gone before he started again. Even though it wasn't noticeable in his expression, Xie Lian had actually been paying close attention to every heavenly official's minute expression as well as Lan Cheng's reaction, and naturally he didn't miss Muqing. However, he didn't think the father of that fetus spirit was likely to be Mu Qing. Xie Lian couldn't even imagine Mu Qing doing such a thing. To be real, Mu Qing was someone who focused heart and mind on cultivation, improving his martial arts, and expanding his territory, growing believers. Besides, they practiced the same cultivation method and would never touch women to ruin his cultivation. However, Mu Qing knew Lan Chong. That was definitely not wrong. But with so little clues, Xie Lian shook his head and descended from the heavenly court. Although the fetus spirit was subdued, and Leng Ying and Jiu Zi were settled in that wealthy merchant's abode with food and drink, there was nothing to worry about. Still, it wasn't good for him to be away for too long. If he took his time, without even a shadow of him, that wealthy merchant would probably start grousing. Thus, the moment Xie Lian descended, he went straight for the town of Puqi. When that wealthy merchant saw him, he immediately clutched his hands and cried excitedly, "Daozhang! Venerable, a venerable! You slept in my mistress' chambers last night and the doors were all locked, yet this morning when we opened up, I couldn't believe my eyes. You'd gone. Strong. Too strong. So, did you catch the monster?" "It's caught, don't worry. Everything's fine now," Xie Lian replied. "How are the two children I brought with me?" It was like that wealthy merchant received absolution, and he cried joyously. "Good, they're very good. They didn't eat much at all." "Daozhang, where's your Qiandang temple? I'm gonna go donate and return my gratitude. From today onwards, I will hang my title as one of the disciples in your temple, and let none fight me." Xie Lian didn't know whether to laugh or cry, but no matter what, he had grown new worshippers, and one that's rich too, so he was feeling rather glad. He lectured and nagged that wealthy merchant the ways of virtue, advising him not to be so promiscuous in the future, to be more devoted and loving to his wife and family, then finally told him to visit Puqi Shrine on another day. Then, Xie Lian left with Leng Ying and Jiu Zi in tow. The three returned to Puqi village and came before Puqi Shrine. Xie Lian took the "Please donate and help with renovation" sign and placed it in a more conspicuous spot, secretly hoping that when that wealthy merchant came he could see it immediately. Then he pushed the doors in to enter the shrine. However, the moment he opened the door, he sensed something different with the place. Walking into the shrine, sure enough, it was very different. The floors of the house had been swept, the altar table and chairs had been wiped, dust had been cleared, and even the trash in the corner had been cleaned out. It was like the Lady River Snail too had paid a visit. Everything was too clean. Even Qi Rong was gone. With his disappearance, it was like the entire place was spacious and bright, and even the air had cleared somewhat. However, Jiu Zi had carried in his arms the meat pies he brought from town especially, and when he peeked in and didn't see anyone, he was anxious. "Big brother, where's Dad?" Xie Lian immediately turned around. He hadn't even left the doors before sensing a dangerous, chilling light attacking, and instantly he pulled out Feng Xin to strike back. Clang! That chilling shine was struck out high into the air, falling miles out away. He unsheathed as fast as lightning, and sheathed just as fast, returning Feng Xin to its place. He let out a puff of breath but immediately became puzzled. "That's it? How come after that flash there's no more moves?" He turned to look at that chilling light. After he had struck, it landed on the ground far away, crookedly embedded into the earth. Looking at it from a far distance, that curved silver arch was appearing more and more familiar. Xie Lian brought the two children over, and when he saw clearly what it was, he immediately knelt down and exclaimed, "It isn't the Ming. What's wrong?" Asking, "What's wrong?" to a scimitar was an extremely odd sight. A few farmers who walked past watched Xie Lian strangely, and elbowed each other secretly. "Look, that man, he's talking to a knife." "Yes, I see it. That's freaky, let's get out of here." However, Xie Lian had to ask because Yiming's entire blade body, including the silver-contoured eye on the hilt, were shaking violently, as if it had contracted a disease, shaking harder by the minute. Xie Lian extended his hand in spite of himself and asked worriedly, "Did I hurt you just now?" Translator's notes. Yanzhen translates to glamorous virtue. The Lady River Snail is a character from a folklore who once was saved by a fisherman and was kept in his house. When he was gone during the day, she'd transform into a girl and perform domestic duties. Once he found out, they lived happily ever after. End chapter.